Hi, Michelle here with Homeschool Haven. I want to speak just a bit on writing. How do we teach writing, especially when we're just starting out with homeschooling? Um, how do we delve into that and add that into an already pretty full day of language arts and math and all the other things? So let me just preface this by saying that when I taught public school, I taught a writer's workshop every single day. We had a program in our district that we followed pretty much to the letter. I don't know if you're familiar with Lucy Calkins. She's a fabulous writer, a teacher of writing, and I loved her program. It was actually one of my favorite pieces of the day. Um, and then I shifted gears into homeschool, and it was one of those things where I really mourned the loss of that writer's workshop experience for my kids to be able to be authors and share their writing with an audience. And so I tried to implement pieces of that, and I had it in my head that I had to teach them writing every day, just like I did in my classroom. And I've really had a bit of a paradigm shift, even just in the last 6 to 12 months on this. I've thought really hard on it because I saw the joy kind of not happening for my children with writing and forcing them into this writing experience every day was just not working for us. I actually talked with Stephanie this last spring about this very thing. I had wanted to implement the IEW writing program because I thought, oh, this is so fabulous last year. And so we started that out and I failed miserably. I could not find the time and the energy to implement this beautiful program. So I was kind of sharing my angst with Stephanie last spring about this and kind of thinking, what do I do about this writing thing? I want my kids to be able to communicate their thoughts through writing. It's important, but we're just not able to fit it into our day. And we talked a lot about the idea that to become a great writer, you really have to be exposed to lots of writing first, right? When we talk about language development, we know that a child learns to speak by hearing lots of words, right? They hear the adults in their life speak properly, and then they start to experiment, and then they speak more and more proficiently with their practice over time. And then they learn to read by hearing reading, and they practice that skill. Well, that all lays the foundation for this writing piece. So as they're hearing language, and being exposed to all kinds of authors and writing styles and vocabulary, that is building a foundation for them to become great writers, or at least um, what we hope is a decent writer, right? We don't need to all be great writers, but I don't want my kids to fall behind there. It basically is what my biggest fear is. I don't want them to get to college and not know how to write a paper or explain their thoughts in words on paper. So anyway, what we kind of gave myself permission to do last spring by through talking about this was saying, okay, I'm not going to worry about a formal writing program at this time. My oldest is in 4th grade, and pretty soon here in the next year or two, we'll probably delve into something a little more formal with grammar. I love the IEW Fix It Grammar program, and I have that still on the shelf, ready to pull out at some point with him. But for right now, I'm not stressing about it. This is what I am doing for writing. And last year, what I ended up doing for writing was pretty low key. And so I'm kind of sharing this with you to give you permission, I guess, especially during this crazy time, to maybe take a step back and not panic too much about this writing thing. Last year, even from the very beginning of the year, it was a really weird year for me. I was dealing with a lot physically, and so I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do a whole lot with this, and that's where I set aside the IEW writing program, and I thought I need to simplify while I go through these treatments and things. And so that's where Spelling UC came in for me. I was looking for something that I could plug in and implement without a lot of me involved. And I noticed that as we were delving into this, that they were getting writing right in here. They're doing some copy work, but it's also integrating science or history and other pieces in this. This is all ancient achievements. But they were practicing good writing by doing this copy work, and I thought, okay, great. And then on Friday, we would do Friday free write, and we still implement that this year. we do a free write for 10 minutes every Friday. They can write whatever they want, no rules. But if, my son at the very beginning of this whole tradition, he would write, he's like, I don't know what to write for free write. Well, then I just said, well, whatever you want to write is fine. Just say, I don't know what to write, And so for the first few weeks, he was like, I don't know what to write. My mom's making me write, blah, 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 blah. Like he'd write blah several times. Or one time I looked at his work and he had written the word the over and over and over again. So we had a big conversation about that and how free write, I gave him a free pass for the first 2 or 3 weeks. I was like, all right, glad you wrote. Good job. I probably didn't even compliment, whatever. But after that, I said, okay, this is a lot about just stepping up a little bit and putting some thought into it, right? So then I kind of raised the bar for him, and now he'll write a poem, or these fabulous stories. He wrote a limerick last week, and he didn't write a whole lot, but he spent some time really thinking about a limerick. And one time he wrote a story about, like these funny elephants and things that they did. And so it's really progressed a lot over the year, or year and a half that we've done this. So I love Friday Free Write. We do that every single week without fail. We also, now I will say, this program, if you're doing just spelling, and you're not doing a grammar program, or you're like, okay, if we do spelling, then we also have to plug in grammar and phonics. Let me just speak to that really quickly. I think that you could just choose one of those 3 things and delve deep into one of those things. So as they're younger and they're doing phonics stuff, like if they have something like Explode the Code workbook or a Handwriting Without Tears writing bundle that has them already writing and letter formation and all of that, that is perfectly fine to call that writing as well, especially in those youngest years. You can say, we've got that covered as long as we're reading lots of material and exposing them to lots of words and authors and writing styles. So I would just call that writing. If you're doing a handwriting or like a phonics program where they're writing 3-letter words or whatever, fixing a sentence. Sometimes I've seen programs where they're like capitalizing the first letter of the word and adding a punctuation mark, like a first grade program that might do that. I would call that writing and check it off my list in the name of simplifying things. And plugging in spelling, you see it's 10 minutes a day. If you're doing the phonics and handwriting and that's about all you can do as well as the reading, I would say good. If they're kind of moving beyond phonics, or you're moving into like later first, second grade, and you want to plug in a spelling, you see kind of thing, I think that you could call that and check it off, especially with this crazy wonky 2020 year that's going on. Here are a few other ideas that I do and I call it good. About 2 or 3 times a month. I try to do it weekly, but there's a week here or there every month that it doesn't happen. We all dial into a video, author video of some kind. So I know Sarah Mackenzie offers author visit or author classes through her premium membership. But there's also a lot of free author videos for kids on YouTube. You can actually type the words in author videos for kids, and you'll have authors on there giving out free advice for kids on how to become an author. I think that would be great. Once or twice a month, plug in a video and just do it. And then one other time a week, so we do Friday Free Write, and another time a week I do a big life journal type thing. We'll talk about the key theme or whatever, like being persistent. That's where we're at right now. And then we do 2 or 3 pages one time a week from the Big Life Journal. I also love the Write Your Own books from Usborne. My son is working through the Write Your Own poems, but later on when we're studying, we're going to do a little bit of Shakespeare, not a ton, but I'm going to have him play around with scripts, write your own scripts. There are several others in this series, like write your own comics or whatever. And so 2 other days of the week, I'll say, okay, do a 2-page spread on the book. Pick 2 pages to do and call it good. So right now, that is about what we're doing. like I said, there's this grammar program I shelved, and if you have an older kid, like a fourth, fifth, sixth grade kid, um, you might consider plugging in something like that. But I would almost recommend just picking spelling or grammar. Like if they're a little bit in the middle section of the elementary years, maybe don't stress too much about the grammar. When they do a free write, you can correct for grammar and have discussion or little mini lesson on like, okay, this is where we would place a comma and why, or we're missing something in this sentence that will make it a complete thought. I mean, little mini lessons like that can be tied into a free write experience. And if they're a little bit older and you're feeling like, okay, we've kind of phased out of spelling, they're doing good at spelling, maybe plug in the grammar in that spot. So I'm not a big proponent of doing like a phonics, a handwriting, then a writing, then a grammar, and a spelling. All of those components can like explode your day and make it really stressful and really take the joy out of learning for your child. So I am a big fan of picking one thing and just diving deep. And so for me right now, my two kids were struggling a little bit more with spelling. So that was why I plugged in a spelling program. And then as we move through that program, I'm going to then shift our focus in grammar and kind of dive in deep with grammar. Not totally neglecting it. Like I said, we can filter in those little pieces here and there when I see their writing. But not stressing about incorporating something like that daily into our plan. So check out the links below. I'll give you a few links for these books that I just recommended, and then hop over to homeschoolhaven.space to see what else I've said about is it enough. I'll put a link to this blog post about am I doing enough? That's a big question in the homeschooling world, and so come on over and check it out.